Let's talk to this bloke who was one of the all-time great back pocket full forward, whatever they call them at the... You know why they call them full forwards?
No.
Well, they're close to the back end. There's to get drinks off the blokes over the sideline, guzzle, and be drunk, and they'll full by the time the game is over. They call him Harold the H. Hark, 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 peacock-a-doodle-doo, and he is a historian. G'day, Harold.
Yes, good morning, Danny. Yeah, it's all happening here. We're full of really good history. I'll tell you about a good story today.
This story is brilliant. The furiously riding Kerwin brothers of Ipswich 150 years ago, they were bushrangers, weren't they?
Well, I reckon you're thinking of the Kenneth brothers. These are the unrelated Kerwin brothers, but they're from right here in Ipswich, and they're a great story too.
But what were they? Were they bad bludgers?
Let me tell you the story, and you can decide.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was in the old Ipswich courthouse in East Street, just around the corner from you, exactly 150 years ago this coming Wednesday. That's when the Kerwin brothers, John and William Kerwin from Redbank Plains, made an appearance. Now, they were members of a big Ipswich pioneering family from County Tipperary in Ireland.
Right.
Now, both John and William had survived the Irish famine at its worst and arrived in Australia in 1855 during the gold rush. 1855, and they hit the goldfields of Beechworth in Victoria, and they must have done okay, you see, because they came up here to Redbank Plains and got some land. They started farming and expanded into grazing, so they did well for themselves. Now, they would have been somewhat influential because in 1873, they backed the successful election of William Walsh to the Queensland Parliament, and not long after that, he became the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. So the Kerwin brothers were doing well by the time they made their appearance in the Ipswich Courthouse on Friday, the 23rd of October, 1874. Now, they had both ridden their horses into town from Redbank Plains and then gone on the tear. But see, both should have known better. But you see, John was 51 years old and William was 37. But they were celebrating something, or maybe just having fun, because they galloped their horses through the streets of Ipswich. They galloped so hard, in fact, that they were arrested for speeding. Or in the words of the day, they were charged with furious riding in the public streets. You couldn't do that. So John and William Kerwin were each ordered to pay a fine of £2 with 3 shillings 6pence costs, or in default to be imprisoned for 7 days. Now, that wasn't so bad for 2 successful graziers, but the thing is, from that point on, things began to go drastically downhill for the brothers. You see, their mother, Mary, died 2 years later in 1876 and is buried here in Ipswich Cemetery. And Danny, she was 80 years old, which means she was born in 1796. So it's amazing to think that someone born in the 18th century is here in Ipswich. But anyway,
that's true.
Specifically for the son, John Kerwin. Now, his son, John Jr., died after accidentally shooting himself while climbing through a fence.
Shooting himself, you said there, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
Like
well, it was pretty bad anyway, and he died from infections. And then John, the father, John himself, didn't see out the century because he died on April Fool's Day, the 1st of April, 1899.
That's a joke.
Yeah, look, but worse jokes was to come for the other brother, William Kerwin. First of all, William married a cousin, Mary, here in Ipswich.
Right.
Then his son, John, was sliced in two while shunting with the railways in Maryborough.
Oh, you're kidding.
You see, he fell in front of a wagon loaded with timber, which ran over him and cut him in half. Both halves were brought back to Ipswich and buried together in the Ipswich Cemetery.
You're unbelievable with your facts.
Oh, look, and this is an unbelievable story because it kept getting worse for him, because a year later, that son that had been cut in half, he'd already lost his 20-year-old wife and 1-year-old son, so losing his own life was almost to be expected with the bad luck he's had.
And they didn't get any counsel, and they just got on with life. Yeah,
and they had to bury the two bits together, so at least that worked out. But in the meanwhile, another one of William Kerwin's sons, William Jr., he was electrocuted. And he was an engine driver over the North Ipswich Railway Workshops, and he was electrocuted there.
Old Sparky was.
Yeah, look, old Sparky. They didn't find his charred body for hours later. Yeah, so the Kerwin brothers had a terrible time after appearing in court here. They survived the Irish famine, but they came to Ipswich where a son accidentally shot himself. Another was sliced in two, and another was electrocuted, and one of the brothers even fell foul of April Fool's Day. So, Danny, if our listeners are to learn anything from the Kerwin brothers in Ipswich 150 years ago, then that's got to be, please don't speed in the streets of Ipswich and stay safe. This is a community safety message.
Especially if you're on your horse. What a great yarn. He built it up again, the Kerwin brothers. And while I got you on page 5 of the Ipswich Tribune, Goodna unmarked graves might get names. You know about this?
Oh, well, I'm going to find out now that you're telling the world, because the world is listening. This is exciting. Keep going.
The head of an inquiry into Woolston Park says there is a likelihood it might be possible to put names to the unidentified gravestones of former patients at the Waco's Woolston Park Mental Hospital. Now, you ought to see how close they were together, and they just got a number on them, A704. So they're going to look into that. Something Professor Brand is expected to invite former patients and their families and carers to describe their treatment and experiences. It's worth you following up, this is.
Yeah, look, there's stories like that. Some of them are very sad, but it is a product of the times as well.
Oh, but, sexual abuse.
So much history there.
Beatings, chemical restraint in the 50s to the 80s. We were pretty cruel, weren't we?
Oh, well, like I say, it's a product of the time. Some could say didn't know any better, but I hope to think we know better now.
Mate, it's great talking to you. How do we find out this story and more? And you say hello to your beautiful sister, Sophie. She's so sweet. G'day, Sophie. We love you. Oh, I do. He loves you too because he's your brother, but I love you because you're just gorgeous. But now tell us how we get the story.
Yeah, look, I post this story, every Sunday morning, so you can go online to my website, historyouthere.com, and there it is. Or you can see through all the social media sites, so Facebook, Instagram, and so on, historyouthere.com.